Next, sorry for the hiatus, everybody. Next, we have Krizia Puig presenting Martian Matters, Disability Justice, and the Impossibilities/Possibilities of Space Exploration.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Can you please quiet? Thank you. What I'm going to do today is basically, I'm going to present a project of experimental academic writing. So what you're going to see is not normal at all, not even in Santa Cruz, not even within the humanities. I am a PhD student in UC Santa Cruz. I am going to graduate with an interdisciplinary degree in feminist studies, critical race and ethnic studies, and astronomy and astrophysics. And right now I'm basically doing research about the material and speculative intersections between affective technologies and the futures of space exploration. My previous research before starting doing research about this was mostly centered in sex robots. And it was basically thanks to SpaceX landing pad that I ended up here. From, of course, I still love you, to doing research about, actually, Nikola Tesla. So I changed a bit the title of my presentation. So I'm going to present this the way in which we do stuff in the humanities, which is that basically I'm going to read. And I have been putting a lot of effort in the words I have chosen for what I write. So I really, really appreciate if you bear with me a little bit with patience and kindness, okay? So, Martian Matters, accessibility, sustainability, and the impossibilities/possibilities of space exploration. Some of the greatest debts we have are to those who live in different times and spaces. I soon discovered that my best comfort was attained if I simply went on in my visions farther and farther, getting new impressions all the time. And so I began to travel, of course in my mind. Every night, and sometimes during the day when alone, I would start on my journeys, see new places, cities and countries, live there, meet people, and make friendships and acquaintances. And however unbelievable, it is a fact that they were just as dear to me as those in actual life, and not a bit less intense in their manifestations. The cosmos and the knowledges it holds are not accessible. They are reserved for those who are able in many senses. Space exploration was deemed to be exclusively for those who have the right bodies, the right minds, the right spirits, the right hearts, the right opportunities, the right contacts, the right education, the right passport. I don't have any of that. I will never pass a physical or psychiatric exam to be considered someone worthy of investment by any space agency. I'm not a scientist. I'm a writer, a theorist. I do not have a pilot license or a scuba certification, and this is not about fulfilling minds or anyone's dreams about becoming the first disabled astronaut. The futures of space exploration hold challenges and potentialities that exceed the knowledges and methodologies traditionally valued within the space sciences. It seems that space studies has emerged as an interdisciplinary field to address this issue, integrating the study of space sciences, management, operations, economy, and national security. However, I cannot answer any of the questions I care about using the knowledges and methodologies currently valued within the space sciences. Who has access to imagine and make the futures? What body minds get to inhabit what is yet to come? What is the worth of disabled people within multiplanetary technoscientific futures? Of those who, for many, don't even have the right stuff to be worthy of a humane existence here on Earth. Those who aren't normal, wealthy, healthy, and are sane. Will we exist? Will we exist? Will we exist In May 2017, the Deaf Poets Society published a special issue entitled Creeps in Space, edited by disabled activists Alice Wong and Sam DeLevy. The special issue was born from a conversation via Twitter in August 2016, in which Levy posited the idea that maybe only disabled people could become, quote, astronauts who can adapt and thrive in the difficult environment of long-term space travel, end of the quote. To this affirmation, one answered, quote, creep bodies were built for space travel. Creep minds already push the outer limits. Hashtag creeps in space. Disabled body minds defy all odds, adapt and thrive in ruthless worlds, mattering. We blur the boundaries between what is believed to be fantasy and reality, between the synthetic and the organic, between what is thought to be living and what is thought to be dying, between the unknowable, the knowable, the thinkable and the unthinkable, the possible and the impossible. Few know Nikola Tesla was disabled. Tesla's complex medical history, his experiences of what today would be pathologized as obsessive-compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and bipolar disorder type 1, are usually a couple of footnotes, a curiosity. On the page, a curiosity, I didn't know I had this.
No, you just
Cool.
be near there. You don't have to
Okay.
do it the whole time.
Let me go back here. If you know Nikola Tesla was disabled, Tesla's complex medical history, his experiences of what today would be pathologized as obsessive-compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, bipolar disorder type 1, and other medical conditions, are usually a couple of footnotes on the pages about the childhood or the final years of the inventor. Nikola Tesla dedicates a great deal of his autobiography, My Inventions and Other Writings, to explain the role of a peculiar affliction that firstly manifested in his early childhood as, quote, appearances of images often accompanied by strong flashes of light, end of the quote. He explains that, quote, luminous phenomena actually marred the signs of real objects and interfere with his thoughts and actions. Vividly and vulnerably, Tesla explains those continuous raptors, sometimes experienced as periods of agony, were of greatest consequence for him to Tesla explains those continuous raptors, sometimes experienced as periods of agony, were of greatest consequence on his mental development and subsequent labors. Martian Matters, Accessibility, Sustainability, and the Impossibilities of Space Exploration is a project of academic experimentalism that takes Nikola Tesla's scientific research methods as a starting point to create a methodology to think about and experiment within future's unknowable, multiple, and uncertain nature. Martian Matters turns the unknowable into thinkable arrangements that uncover entanglements, suggesting that are disabled, abnormal, insane, and or unhealthy body minds, those who, in fact, have made and will make space exploration possible. It takes upon the challenge of conceptualizing what have been deemed to be impossible, a model for space exploration that does not center colonization as its main underpinning and our goal, but that does not disregard the infinite potentialities of we becoming a form of spacefaring collectivity, whoever that we might be. As an intellectual and creative exercise, this project intertwines cryptechnosciences, posthumanisms, critical race and ethnic studies, astronomy, astrophysics, nanotechnology, performance studies, eco-criticisms, and robotics to offer a reading of the Mars fevers from a disability justice perspective. Through the adaptation of scientific apparatuses into machines to write improvised experimental theory, I aim to, 1, understand the elusive entanglements among seemingly disconnected phenomena that permeate the politics defining the visions and missions to colonize Mars, that sustain the imaginary technological ambitions and economic drive of multiplanetary imperialist plutocracies. I also aim to decipher patterns of conductivity among legitimate and illegitimate sources of knowledge and practices of knowledge creation. And I aim to map and analyze the implications of creating sustainable and accessible human settlements on Mars. I share with you a brief vignette in which I explain this methodology and have integrated some sample text from past test runs of the device that resulted in critical writing that disrupts traditional assumptions regarding whom, why, when, and how should contribute to the endeavor of doing research about space exploration. Twisted writing, material magic, escapism, and the physics of feeling the future. The Mars fever are not isolated intellectual pandemias. They are complex phenomena that emerge within multiple spacetimes at the intersections of the affective and effective ripples set into motion by the expansive character of the study of Mars within the space sciences. To understand them, I use, first, Karen Barat's theory of agential realism, which is a diffractive reading of quantum physics through contemporary theories of social justice that emerge from a rigorous examination and elaboration of the implications of Niels Bohr's philosophy physics. Two, I use recent discoveries in twistrionics and 2D material superconductivity. Twistrionics is a technique considered the 2018 breakthrough of the year by the publication Physics World for its potential of opening a new paradigm for device engineering, specifically in nanotechnology. Technically, twistrionics consists of manipulating the electronic properties of two-dimensional layered structures through their twist angle. It is also described by physicists as the, quote, ability in experiments to control the relative twist angle between successive layers in two-dimensional materials, which offers an approach to manipulating their electronic properties, end of the quote. The technique was firstly used to create magic angle graphene, a material that behaves as a high-temperature superconductor, but that is made with two one-atom layers of regular graphene, which do not have that electronic property. And finally, I use Augusto Boal theory of the oppressed. Augusto Boal is a Brazilian director and theorist who implemented the use of theater as a tool for social justice and conflict resolution in Latin America. Boal understood theater. Boal did not understand a theater play as something set in stone. His main technique, called teatro foro, integrated the actors, the production team, and the spectators as producers of dramaturgy, that is, as producers of meaning before, during, and after the play. Karen Barat defined apparatuses as material reconfigurations of discursive practices that produce and are part of material phenomena in their becoming. I engage with legitimate and illegitimate sources about the futures of space exploration, as if they were layers of graphene. I overimpose them, tune them, understanding them as a phenomena that have been flattened by history as a 2D heterostructure. I have transformed a scientific apparatus created by a team of scientists at Columbia University, that is this machine, okay, to basically create a little thingy that allows me to do exercise of improvised writing, okay? So what I do, or what I have been trying to do, okay, is build that layer that you see in the middle, that in the picture is black, okay? I basically substitute or assign a source, a historical source, to every single atom in that layer, right? And then I spin different layers of those sources until there's a point in which I am able to see a connection between those sources and between those topics that I couldn't see before, that I wasn't able to conceptualize before. So what I have realized is that in many ways rearranging the ways in which notions of matter and meaning are evoked through these sources, I am also theorizing in a way that basically respect and honors future's multiplicity and future's uncertain nature, okay? So what I'm doing right now, it's basically trying to write blocks of theory regarding several stuff. And what I'm going to write right now, what I'm going to read right now before finishing is basically a very brief fragment that talks about Nikola Tesla's disabilities and uses Nikola Tesla's disability to propose a method of improvised research and writing. Since I was a child, worlds come to my mind. I can see them growing like plants, sense them crawling through my arms. They flourish on the page, in the walls, on the floor, even before I can notice they inhabited me. Before I can apprehend I am with them, they whisper. Can you hear them? Sentences complete themselves, speaking. I just stitch argument stories from and within somewhere else. Like Nikola Tesla, I think, quote, we have undoubtedly certain fine fibers that enable us to perceive truth when logical deductions or any other willful effort of the brain is futile. How do you pronounce it? Futile. End of the quote. Most of Nikola Tesla's groundbreaking inventions, like the polyphase, induction motor, also known as the AC motor, came to his mind as a revelatory hallucination, and those are the words he uses in his memoirs. It was also in a strike of lucidity that he had a premonition when he was young about the electric system that he will later build at Niagara Falls. It was also through documented revelatory hallucinations that he figured out a possible use of electric wave to signal men on Mars. According to articles from the New York Times and from the San Francisco Chronicle that span from 1896 to 1915. Tesla was then crazy when he started contemplating the possibility of talking to Martians, when he affirmed that he was talking to Martians, and when he never basically denied that he was talking to Martians. We actually owe him the existence of electric power distribution systems, fluorescent neon lights, wireless communication, remote controls, and robotics, among other artifacts and devices. Nikola Tesla also speaks about cosmic pain, and in fact, he explains that it was through a realization of our shared pain that he cracked a wave to make the little boat function. Basically, he understood robotics, departing from the premise that we all share pain. Tesla's visions and inventions surpass him. Like Nikola Tesla, I hold all past, present, and futures in my hands. Can you sense them? Wouldn't you write about them the way they want to write, the way they want to be written, if you could feel them too, bursting like fireworks when typing? I write like Nikola Tesla. He needed no models, drawings, or experiments to invent. I need no models to write. Quote, when I get an idea, I start at once building it up in my imagination. I change the construction, make improvements, and operate the device in my mind, he explained. I do not need nor want proposals, outlines, or guidelines to theorize. Futures cannot be made like that. They pass. When I get an idea, I also start building it at once. Most of the times, I do not know what I will write when I start to type. Like Tesla, I have visions of beings, things, and places that make themselves through and with me. Sometimes, I am also unable to, quote, distinguish whether what I saw was tangible or not, end of the quote. And like him, quote, I believe that carrying out into practice a crude idea, as is being generally done, is nothing but a waste of energy, money, and time, end of the quote. Nikola Tesla saw motors. I see words, worlds operating. My writing will expand across all the race histories, reaching towards the magic of those made of wonder. Us, the crippled, the crazy, the idiots, the stupids, the dumbs, the lame, the lunatics, the mutants. We are the energy that nurtures any possible transformation. We are the shape-shifters holding the cosmos. We are the alchemist of change. Without us, you cannot go to space. What is the worth of disabled people within multiplanetary technoscientific futures? Of those who, for many, don't even have the right stuff to be worthy of a humane existence here on Earth. Those who are normal, wealthy, and are sane. Will we exist? Will we exist? Will we exist? Thank you. Do you have any questions? Yes.
My name is Irene.
Hi,
My
Irene.
pronouns are she and her. I have had my consciousness blown a little bit. Cannot quickly follow much of what you had to say. Very, very much caught by that hallucinatory revelation. Like the structure of benzene coming to someone in a dream. Typical kind of thing. But on a very mundane level, I guess I had the impression, I had the expectation that we might hear about, for instance, persons who have to live with constraints that maybe not everybody physically or mentally has to, are already prepared to live with the constraints of being in a small space, in a spaceship. I was thinking that concretely. Do you want to address that at all?
Yeah, for sure. I purposely choose to not do that. Because that's what everyone does. That's what everyone would expect from me. To sit here and tell you all that I wanted to be an astronaut since I was little, and that I'm here to advocate for some sort of weird plan to make me arrive to whatever. And I'm not here for that. There's a lot of people doing work specifically around that, and I actually follow their work. I think they are doing very interesting stuff. There are a lot of people working around, I will say in a very competitive manner, to put disabled people in space. And many of those people see disabled astronauts as a possibility or as a way of saving money. You don't have to maintain someone's legs if you don't have legs. You don't have to do those kind of things. There's also people talking about the necessity of having blind astronauts in any, basically, mission, considering that someone who's already blind and who has been training as a blind person will actually deal with a situation of contingency in a better way. I have also, actually, during the summer, I went to the Kennedy Space Center. I was doing a fellowship, whatever, and talking to people. One of my main questions always was, what is the role of disabled people in space exploration? especially because what I perceive is that there's a very thin line between who's a genius and who's crazy. There's a very thin line between who basically deserve no attention at all because it is absolutely out of control, and someone who is just a fucking genius. I'm sorry for the language. So I am basically starting to play with this kind of things. I'm also right now working on adapting astronomical spectroscopy to study historical sources, and also basically adapting principles of gravitational wave detection to understand the ways in which many phenomena that we think don't relate, in fact, to the ways in which the history of space exploration have been written, okay? Regarding what you were saying about the revelations and the hallucinations, etc., I am very purposely hunting, kind of, not only Tesla's confessions, explanations regarding his experiences, but also Werner von Braun stuff, especially because the figure of Werner von Braun allows me a very clear contrast in relation to Tesla. Like if we think about these two figures, it is basically the investment of JP Morgan and someone deciding that we will gonna use fossil fuels, which change history, and that's it. So when and when you start digging in von Braun's things, von Braun has one book that is like a very technical scientific project to go to Mars, and the other stuff is basically a sci-fi novel. And in that sci-fi novel, he basically calls the leader of the Martian people the Elon. And I have an entire thing also done through this method, in which I write an entire story about the birth of the Elon and how this Elon it's going to substitute the human in itself as kind of subjectivity from Earth, you know what I mean? And it's fascinating to see basically how space-time is actually not linear, and how when we do theory and when we create knowledge, it is actually possible to do those forms of space-time travel, you know what I mean? If we allow that to ourselves. And yeah, there's several people who are disabled and who are training to be an astronaut already. But to be absolutely honest, I don't think people are actually interested in making that a reality. I honestly laugh a lot, especially because what you hear all the time is we need to make space travel accessible. What people is usually saying is we need to make space travel something that people can buy. We're not talking about accessibility. That's not accessibility. And in many ways, when someone steals that word from disabled people who actually need that word to name a practice in which our needs and fantasies are taken care of, stuff gets very delicate, right? I don't know, and I'm gonna close with this thought. For example, while I was at the Kennedy Space Center, one of the answers I received for this, why there aren't disabled astronauts, was, well, we cannot take out of rockets someone who cannot walk in a contingency situation. And I was like, I laugh a lot. Not because that is not a reality, it is. But it is a reality because our brain works and designs to create knowledge and spaces for very specific kind of people. And our space program was built for very specific kind of people. And for those very specific kind of people to have control of the future. And that's something that needs to be disrupted for us to actually live in a just world, I think. And especially because for me it's my role as a theorist, as an artist, to dream and think as, I don't know, thinking possibilities in all their complexity, right? No one told Julio Verne something was impossible to do, you know what I mean? And then you scientists just figure it out. But I don't think that giving me just the excuse that you, like, that's a very lame excuse, you know what I mean? Like, you're putting people on Mars. You can figure out ways to do stuff if you want to. And that's a decision. It's a decision. And in many ways, what people are proposing right now is to, silencio, it's to build our spaceships and stuff, taking principles of universal design from the get-go. If you Google universal design, you can find what are the principles of universal design. But basically, the principles of universal design strive to create places where every single type of body basically could exist. Thank you.